All right. Welcome, everybody. Just so everyone knows, upon arrival, if you didn't hear me say this before, upon arrival, you're muted by default. It's probably best to leave yourself muted while you're on there, unless, if you want to say something, unmute yourself and interrupt me. It's totally fine. But you're muted when you get here just because if everyone's unmuted, it just sounds like clanking pans and pots, so it's a little crazy. So probably best to keep it muted. But if you have a question, feel free. Also, on the side of your screen, hopefully it's on the side of your screen, it's on the side of my screen, you'll see a group chat. You can type any questions in there. If you want to just type remarks like, hey, Mike, your hair looks great, you can do that kind of stuff. There you go. And if you have a question or you want to ask something and you don't want to type it or you don't want to interrupt me, which is fine, you can also do a raise your hand thing. You can play around with little settings on your screen there, and you can add backgrounds. Brian isn't really in front of a palm tree right now, although he looks very happy and fairly comfortable on that lonely beach. But you can change your background, you can change all kinds of stuff. But if you have a question, you can raise your hand. I can see that you did that, and I'll interrupt as well. I don't know, Beth. Are you that? I wouldn't call that lucky. I wouldn't call that lucky at all. Just ask my wife, who's sitting across the table from me, and she is not pleased. This is too much proximity as it is. All right, guys. So first of all, I hope everyone is doing well. Again, if you have any questions at all, feel free to interrupt. Type them over to the right or to whichever side it is on your screen. Feel free to ask anything. Nothing's really off limits here unless it's super creepy or super gross, in which case you can ask it quietly. I don't know what's going on over there. My wife is doing something.
Those are for the chat box, those types of questions.
Oh, yes, exactly. Yeah, leave those for the chat. We'll make sure we answer them. Also, if you, for any reason, want to go back and watch this after today, this will be on the YouTube channel no later than tomorrow morning, possibly tonight, as long as it uploads quickly. It's a bit of a long process, but we'll get it on there as soon as possible. All right. So number one, I hope everyone is doing well. We had a nice bout of beautiful weather followed by a return to a little bit of winter today if you went outside. One thing I want to cover right out of the gate, because I know a lot of people asked about last week, was routes and having the option. God love you, most of you complain about my routes during the season, and then of course as soon as I'm not there, you say, hey Rick, can you make us some routes? Which is kind of funny and kind of awesome. But we found, I think, what would be a pretty good option for everybody. And so I'm going to show you two things. And so I'm going to be sharing my screen here in a second, but I'm going to show you two things through Map My Run, which is the program that I use to send out all the routes on a weekly basis. I'm not going to suggest here that it doesn't have its flaws, because it definitively does have some flaws. And it also, but I'll show you not only how to get to some routes, approximately 700 of them that I've created, as well as how to make your own routes. Couple disclaimers, and I'll certainly, hi Sharon, a couple disclaimers that I'll say prior to getting into Map My Run. One is, again, it's not perfect. Two is, to do much of what I'm going to show you, you don't have to have an account, but it will make things a lot easier, especially to get to what I'm going to show you tonight. You do have to have an account. So, it's up to you guys whether you want to create an account or not, but you won't be able to do a lot of what we're showing you tonight otherwise. But for the sake of this, I'm just going to do the demo first, and we'll get started with that portion of it. So give me 1 second here. I need to get to that. Give me one moment. Sorry. And I should have this much more obvious, and it's not. Hold on, guys. Sorry.
It's the blue share button at the bottom of the screen.
No, I'm not having an issue there. It's not letting me share the screen that I wanted to. Okay, here we go.
Share desktop.
I know.
Sorry, my IT thing goes directly to telling you what to do.
No. I know how to do it. It was not showing me the screen I wanted to share. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see this now. Let me make this a little bigger, hopefully. So can everybody see that?
Yes.
Good, bad, and different? Okay, perfect. All right, so this is the screen that you would see with Map My Run after you would log in if you have an account. So you can kind of see here, it's, it's my page. There's a little picture of my daughter there as my profile picture. And when I create a route, I do it as follows. So I'm going to kind of just, no pun intended here, run you through the creation of a route, and I'm going to do kind of the short version. If you have any questions, please interrupt me. You can type some. Laura's across from me, so she can interrupt me if there's something you want to type. But I'm going to just kind of show you the basics. So you'll see at the top of the screen here, you have a couple different tabs. There's all kinds of things you can do with Map My Run, but honestly, the only thing I use it for is creating routes. So you can see here, hopefully you can see my mouse. You'll see create route right there. You can also get to it via this. You can go to routes and you'll see the different things here. Some of this will come into play as you guys, if you were to create your own routes, you'll see some of this as well. So first things first, if I'm going to go to create route, you'll see the screen will load, it'll change. You'll typically get an advertisement that pops up in front of you. There it goes. I usually just close that and it'll take you right to it. You'll see, so you can kind of see this overview. I have it default to a map view versus a satellite view. I have, as you can see up in this left-hand corner, I have a map location and I have default to Beyond Exercise. So in other words, when the map comes up, by default, it shows me a starting point of Beyond Exercise. And by starting point, I mean this. So I'm going to kind of go over here and I'm going to pull this over and you'll see it has that star right there. And that's BE. Does that make sense? Hopefully that's kind of obvious. And so if we were to go in and create a route, honestly, just to begin, you'll see this this cursor right here. So I'm going to zoom in even a little bit more. You can see the building there. And if you just click once, you do a left click. Well, of course, it did something that it's not supposed to do. Give me a second here, guys. I'm going to get over to a screen where I can see it because I need to make this a little bit smaller. Give me one moment, guys, because it's overlaid over another screen. So, okay. So again, I would start here, Beyond Exercise. I would left click, and you'll see now it brought up a green arrow, and all that means is that's the starting point for the route. We're going to just do something simple. And so now what I can do is I can click there, and I can click anywhere following. And so just as an example, now you can see I'm down here on Madison Road. If I click, it'll draw typically, quote unquote, the shortest point from the starting point to where I clicked second. And I kind of already know some of the ins and outs of how to make that go quicker. So I usually will just click, a couple streets away or even a mile away or something like that. And it'll usually follow a path. This works especially well if you have like a straightaway or something that doesn't have a lot of offshoots or a lot of turns. It's going to usually just follow the straightest path to there. So as you can see now to continue, I can do one of two things. I can either move the map, as you can see here, or I can zoom further out to create, to create my next point. So I'm going to now lose the starting point off the screen a little bit. So let's just say I want to go to Edwards Road. So here we go. So I just clicked again, and you'll see that I have 2 clicks, but you'll see that I have one long line. You'll see that the other original click point is right here. It's that little white dot. So it just kind of shows you all the different clicks along the path if you want to do that. So we'll say, okay, let's go down Edwards Road. Let's go to Hyde Park Square. I'll usually just go ahead and click in the square so that it will just make that turn for me. So now you can kind of see it just made the turn for me. Now let's say we want to go down Delta. Now let's say we're going to go all the way up Observatory. You can kind of see what I mean by if you click in long lines, it'll draw the map basically the shortest distance. So you can see that. Now, let's just say I drew that and I didn't like that because I said, ooh, I want to be able to stop back in Hyde Park Square and grab water, right? So now I can go over here, and this is the basically the menu of what you can do. while you're creating a map over here on the right. So you'll see where it says 4.37 miles. That will give you a running total, and it will give you all kinds of different options. You can see I have it auto check to auto follow roads. That tends to be a little bit easier. It's also avoid highways. Obviously, if you're running, you probably should avoid highways. You can scroll down. You can see some other pieces here. Distance markers. It'll automatically put a marker at 1 mile. Imperial, which is simply English, will say miles versus kilometers. And then as you go to underneath here, you'll see some different things, which I'll come back to in a few minutes. Elevation, traffic, bicycle paths, etc. So one thing I want to say, so again, if I wanted to go back to Hyde Park Square, I may want to unclick what I just did. So now scroll back up to the map, you'll see undo, and I will undo that, and you'll see now it takes me back to the point that I had prior to clicking further down Madison Road. So now I'm just going to click here, and now I'm going to take this turn back into Hyde Park Square. So now you can see I'm at 4.5 miles, on the nose in this case. So let's say, okay, great. I get a drink in Hyde Park Square. Now I'm going to continue on Edwards Road. And now let's just say we want to head back to BE. We'll click there because I know it's going to take me roughly back to it. And then I'll click at the end point, and you'll see, obviously I knew this was a 6-mile route, pretty easy. So now I can zoom out and I can see the whole route, right? Makes sense? And the reason I'm kind of showing you this to you is, one, you can kind of make routes for yourself, or if you go on a run and you want to sort of check your mileage after the fact, this is a really easy way to do that. This does require you to create an account. You can't map your run, no pun intended here, without having the account for yourself. But you can see kind of how I can do this. Now, one of the things as you're in here, and this is an important distinction because I'm going to try to blow this up a little bit, is what this can do when you are creating a route versus when you are looking at a route that I've already created for you. So I'm going to scroll down here, and now you'll see this menu again. If you see there's a checkbox here that says elevation. If I click elevation and now I check it, you'll see at the bottom of the screen, it pops up an elevation chart for the route. I assume everyone can see that. Now, what used to happen, and you guys may have seen some conversation about this at the beginning of the season, was you used to be able to do what I'm about to show you, even with maps that I saved and sent out to you. You could then open them and click on this elevation option and see everything that I can see right now. Sadly, they, for whatever reason, removed that function in an update to this software earlier this year, probably, I think, in January or February. It was right after the group started. So it's a little bit of a frustration, and you'll see what I mean, but you'll see now if I go down here, if you see my cursor, right? If I go kind of to the beginning of it and now watch, if I scroll along this route, you will see on the screen of the map, you will see a green little cursor that follows along the route. And as I go along the elevation, it takes the green cursor and follows the path that we created. Okay. If anyone's not sure what I just did, please, speak up. But I want, that's an important thing to notice, because when I'm creating the route, I can do this. I can go in and I can follow along. I can back up. You can see it now backing up, back and forth. I can follow the path all the way from beginning to end, right? Again, this used to be a feature you could also use. You could simply open a map that I created. You could click elevation, and then you could do the exact same thing. Sadly, you can no longer do that. So I know a lot of people have said, hey, is there another option? Is there something that allows you to roll along the path of a route? And the answer is not that I found. If anyone else can find that for me, please let me know. I've tried everything from Garmin Connect to all kinds of random small apps online. I have not found anything that does it and does it honestly very well, but nothing that allows you to save a map, send it to somebody, and then follow along the path that you created. So I understand that when you will look at some of my routes, you can't see the path, and I apologize for that. Again, I'm still working. I've talked to Map My Run multiple times, and sadly, it's just a feature that they removed. Another feature that is on here that they also removed from you being able to see it in a saved route, but again, you can see it as you're creating it, is over here on the left side. You'll see things that say route details. You'll see this log as workout. I never use that, but right below that, you'll see something that says directions/notes. Now, if I click that, you'll notice it gives me all kinds of turn-by-turn directions. It's honestly very detailed. I do not use this when I'm creating the turn-by-turn directions. Maybe you're all saying, why not? And I honestly think it's a little too detailed. It's a little too much. So I actually just type out all those routes that when I put a route out at the beginning of a run, that's me just typing it. But if you create a route and you're like, ooh, I don't know, like there's an interesting street over there, I want to go down it, but I don't know how to get to it. You can sometimes, as you're creating your own route, look at this and say, pull up the directions/notes, and it will give you all the detail that you want. It can be helpful if you're not familiar with an area or not familiar with streets. So it's a nice feature to have, again, that you can only have when you're creating routes, not when you're looking at a saved route I created. Good news, bad news. Although this guy with his CPAP on looks very happy. I don't know if you guys see the same ad that I'm seeing. So he looks very happy and tired.
Rick, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So instead of doing all those turn by turns, can you just say, here's my starting point. I want this elevation, map me 6 miles out and back. Does it do that?
Yeah, so you can search for certain distance routes.
She's asking if you can make it create a route for you.
No, I know, but you can search for routes. It won't auto-generate a route for you. You can search for a route.
I think Strava might have just added some sort of capability of that. Because like Garmin started having that like as part of the Phoenix 6 release,
Right.
some of their high-end things. So I think Strava's playing around with that, but that's
So
like
so I understand what you're asking, Heather, and to answer the first part of the question, which is, will it auto-generate if you say I want 500 feet of elevation gain and a 6 mile route, make me a route from this point to this point or something like that. It's not an option here, and I did not have success doing so in. Let me rephrase it. In Garmin Connect, I was able to create some routes, and it actually allows you to do more when creating the route. The downside is when I went to share that route that I created, it had the same limitations this had, which was I can see it and it's lovely, but when you guys get it, it's just like getting a route from Map My Run. You couldn't tell if I was turning left or right. Like, so in this, look at the screen here. And the problem is you can see, well, I can tell, Rick, you left Beyond Exercise and you went up and you turned left on Edwards, and then you got to Hyde Park Square. But when you got to Hyde Park Square, did you turn right or left on Erie? You can't tell. And that's kind of the flaw here. Now you can kind of guess. You can see mile 2 is over there by, towards Delta, but it's a flaw that doesn't allow you to follow the path. Again, if anyone knows otherwise, we did look at Strava. We looked. I worked a lot in Garmin Connect to try to make it work, and it's same issues. But I'm certainly not giving up. But right now, Map My Run allows me to do what I want to do, share it the way we want to share it. It just doesn't have the capabilities it used to have, which is kind of odd, but who knows? Maybe they'll get enough complaints that it'll change. Thank you for drawing. So that's how you would create a route. You'll see then if I go up here and I go to route details, like you can see, we'll say zoom, I can make it whatever I want to make it, right? Whoops, sorry. So you can see, I can name it whatever I want, and then you can click here. You do have to pick an activity. So, I mean, you can say swim or whatever you want. It'll probably still create the route. But you'll see that I created, I will usually create just a run route, and then I go to save route. Now watch what changes here. And this is kind of the point, because with what you're about to see is what you guys would see when I send it to you. And that's what changes. You'll see it's blue right now. Once it shifts, here's the problem. It now becomes this, and you lose, which is sort of frustrating. Hold on. Whoops, I made it a little bit small. You can get a lovely route, but you lose all that capability I just showed you. So if you notice now, You no longer can follow the path. I don't even have the option of pulling up elevation. I no longer have the option of pulling up directions or notes. What you can do if you created the route, only if you created the route, is you can now, this is like a little cheat I found, you can go up to more and you can click edit route. And if I go to edit route, it's now going to pull it right back up just like it was before I saved it, although everything is saved. And you can actually go in and sort of play around with it again. And all of those features that we had prior are back. But again, it's only if you go back into a route you made, not like, if Matt Beck makes a route and publishes it and everybody looks at it, nice work, Matt, you will not be able to do this. We tried it. It does not work. So the only option you would have is create your own route. You can go back in and edit it. You can then go back here and do this lovely thing where you bring up elevation. Sorry, I'm making it so small. It's a little finicky here. And then again, I can follow along with the little cursor and you can see how it works again, just the same way. And then again, if I just go back and save it, it reverts right back to not having those options. So this is one way to again, follow your own paths. You can create your own routes. You can check something you went out and ran, but you weren't sure what the mileage was. Like let's say you don't wear a watch or whatever. This is kind of a cool tool you can use. An account is completely free. They don't, I can tell you from experience, they don't send you emails. You're not going to get anything. If you create a route, you're not going to get like 20 emails a week from Map My Run. I mean, I get nothing from them actually. So 0. So I think it's, kind of an easy thing to do is create the route or create the account and kind of go from there. So now the other thing you can do is to answer a question that was asked last week, which was Julie asked if I could provide some options for people of routes from different places in Cincinnati. And the easy answer is I can provide close to 700 of them. You can go back and see every route I've ever created, which is not necessarily something you want to know or would ever dream of looking through. But if you go in here, you can go to routes. Once you have an account, and again, you have to have an account to do this, okay? You can go to routes, and because I can't see it on my screen, and I can even potentially, maybe Laura can do it or whatever, but you will see an option to just go, when you go to routes, and you can say find routes right here, okay? Actually, this is the same screen you would see. So you'll see here, now you just go to, again, you would click on routes and go to find routes. You will then type in here route name or keyword. Real easy. If you just type run project, all one word, just like that, in search, you will see a lovely, lovely thing, again, that you may never wanted to know. There's 683 routes that I've created over. Who's laughing? It's lovely, right? Some of these are mistakes. Some of these are repeats. Like you'll see, like sometimes in a row, you'll see like 3 Newport 10-mile routes. It's because I was testing different options and trying to plan water stops and that kind of thing. So good news, bad news is you're seeing everything I've ever done because I don't usually delete them. Sometimes I'll delete like a couple duplicates and here and there. Hold on, in my back. Is my sound back normal? Laura said it was.
You
Okay.
sound like Robot Man.
Hold on. Is this any better?
Rick, stop scaring everybody.
All right. So I'm going to take over because that's hard to listen to. So basically, you can go through all of these and you can search within the run project. You can put in run project, but you can also put in the numerical miles. And that'll bring up some of the routes that he's done that are in your kind of target mileage area. And then also, if you want to put in like a location, that you run through, you can put that in, and it'll kind of, decrease how many search results that you get. What else do you want
Am I any better?
to know?
Okay. I'm gonna end this part of it anyway. I hope that makes sense. So you guys can I still sound awful?
Mm-hmm.
It's still pretty bad.
So this is Rick wants me to say if he's gonna come over and sit near me, that if you have any questions about this, you can put them in the chat. And we'll make sure to answer them. So it is about 9 o'clock. Do you want to open it up for? Okay. Hold on.
Can I sit on your lap? Or...
No, you cannot.
Oh, come on.
All right, so just 1 second. So we're going to unshare with screen and go to
All right.
All right.
I need to go turn off your sound.
So, sorry about that, guys. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm Laura. I hope you guys are excited to see me. Oh. All right. So she just kind of basically pulled the chair out from underneath me. I almost died. That was cool. One other thing we wanted to talk about real quickly, and that is, it's kind of an important subject, but it's just more of a topic, and we can talk more about it if you guys have questions, and that is, in sort of a weird twist of fate, and as I was running on a treadmill this evening, I sort of thought about it, and my joke, it's like, my wife will probably punch me in the face for using this analogy, but it's like the Alanis Morissette song where she's like, "Isn't it ironic? We all," I know, I'm trying to bring it back to something. I'm not quite sure what, but there it is. But ironically, we probably all have been telling over the years, we tell friends and family and everything else, like, "Hey, get outside and run. It's such a, liberating thing, and it's so freeing, and you can get out and enjoy the weather, and, think to yourself and all this stuff." And then now we walk outside and there's 250 million people out on the sidewalks and the trails and the parks and everything else. And people are everywhere all of a sudden. And while it has its obvious benefits, it's kind of cool. Like, we live directly next to the Wasson Way Trail, and it's very cool to see everybody out there using it. Like, I think that's awesome. I love seeing people out. I mean, the other day I was driving to and from the grocery store. I saw more people running and walking than I did cars, like by far. So I think it's a really cool thing, and it's kind of a nice byproduct of what's going on in the world right now. That being said, one of the things that I have noticed, and several other people have brought to my attention, and I've talked to multiple people about, is this sort of unique problem now that we're creating, which is we're being asked to maintain a distance from other people. We'll call it the 6 feet social distancing concept. And yet when you're out on a sidewalk that's, 3 to 4 feet wide, and you're on a trail that's 10 feet wide, but there's 10 people on it, you can't, in a very literal sense, it's like you can't even abide by this ask, which is to stay away from people in the 6 feet number. So I just want to bring a couple of points up, and then of course if people have other things they want to add to this, please do so. But we have a responsibility, and I think it's more, in some ways, it's almost more our responsibility than it is anyone else's, which is we know what it's like to share the road and to share the sidewalks and to share the paths with people and the trails with people, because we've been doing it for so long. And we often, preach at the beginning of our seasons, and even throughout the seasons, we ask people to be respectful and attentive to other groups and other runners and walkers and people with kids and dogs and bikes and all those things. To kind of give them the right of way. And I guess I'm going to ask you know, let's be that example to people. And I think it would be in our best interest to sort of set the example. And if that means, you know, we slow down for a minute so someone can pass us, or if it means, you know, we step off of the sidewalk to let somebody go by us with two kids in a stroller, or whatever, go ahead and do it. And I think we're all starting to get a little more comfortable with this feeling that, like, you know, someone's approaching us on a sidewalk and everybody kind of goes, whoop, you know, kind of splits. It's not because something's wrong with us or something's wrong with them, but it's now becoming the right thing to do versus just a recommendation. And so, you know, try to abide by that and realize that you're not doing it because, um, you know, you're just trying to avoid somebody, but you're doing it because it's for their betterment and your betterment. And if people see you do it, hopefully other people will follow the example. That's number one. Number two, there's another, you know, perfect part of this, which is we have a tendency to sort of step outside, and especially now we step outside, and it's very, again, to use this term, it's very freeing and very liberating. And we get almost, I think, a little too comfortable with being outside, and we almost forget that there are all these other people around us, and there's way more people around us than previously. And so I want to say this, and I want to say it in the best and most delicate way I can. I really, you know, I mean, the sort of blunt way to say this is, please don't run with other people. That's the simple version. The other one is, if you have a friend either in this group or you have another friend, you know, outside of this group or whatever, I know people are out running with friends, like, and I get it, and I totally get that desire to connect with people, and to do something we're all used to enjoying. And I understand that people are, kind of striving for social interaction and comfort, and you know, this social feel that running gives us in many ways. But when you do that, you are putting you and them at risk. And what I mean by that is as follows: like, if Laura is, which she'd probably prefer, just my friend versus my beautiful and talented wife, um, and her and I decide to go out for a run, the issue here is that I don't know where she has been, and I don't know who she's been around. Let's say she went to the grocery store and she came across somebody that has an illness, and she doesn't know it. But now she comes and hangs out with me and she says, well, I think you're safe. Like, I'm safe. I'm good, right? Like, I've been being safe and smart. I run outside, and, you know, I'm not sitting in an office with people. The problem is, though, now we run into a situation where she has inadvertently exposed me to something, and or reverse it, I've inadvertently exposed her to something. And the problem here is now that I have put her at significant risk, or vice versa. And that, guys, is not cool. It's just not. And while I get it, this sucks in so many ways. And while I get it that this is a pain, and I get it that this is difficult in so many ways, do it for now. Do it. All right. And when the time comes that we can all sort of return to some level of normalcy, we'll have that opportunity, and be damned, you know, we'll celebrate the hell out of it. But as an example, you know, I see Jim on here, and I thought Jim was very, you know, thoughtful and kind, actually, to share his story, which is, you just don't know. And because we don't know, be smart. It's that simple. And follow the guidelines, you know, be the bigger person. And when your buddy says, hey, you want to go for a run, instead of saying, yeah, that sounds great, well, we'll just stay 6 feet away from each other. You guys all know that's not going to happen. So just go out and enjoy yourself. And I wasn't kidding when I sent out the email the other day. This is actually, in many ways, an opportunity to enjoy some things that you haven't had an opportunity to enjoy, which is take a step back, relax, enjoy the beautiful weather, other than today. But, you know, enjoy the spring in Cincinnati. Go take a walk. You know, go look at flowering trees. Go hang out, and honestly enjoy a downtime, which we don't often get. All right, so that's my soapbox. I will now step off of it, and if anyone has any questions or wants to add anything, please do so now.
Fidelio.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Leslie.
That wasn't me.
Oh,
It
I
was
didn't even know who it
Caroline.
was.
It was Caroline.
Oh,
I do
good,
have a
Caroline.
question though. I do have a question.
We'll have to tell people what that is so they don't think, okay, we're not.
Laura says no. Kathleen is knitting and Jessica is crocheting. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I've got
I
an
just want to
idea.
make sure I had it right.
I've got an idea.
You should make us face masks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we have a fairly decent number of people here. I feel like this is a good opportunity to ask them to make us all something.
That'll be our next season's thing. Is
Yeah.
face masks.
Start knitting. Because
Is somebody working on a widget for the for Garmin's for dogs per mile?
I do love that, by the way. I think Mike Sturwald was genius. It's clearly taken off. I think it's awesome. It's a great question, Damon, and I think it should be a thing because it's hilarious. I'm not allowed to run outside yet, so I'm still struggling, with the whole thing. I see him as I'm driving, but and if you guys are really bored, on Thursday, I'm getting this thing fixed. The rest of the way, I'm getting my pins out. I'm hoping Laura, who will be accompanying me to the surgery, which I'm not allowed to have general anesthesia for, will film it and maybe share it later because it will probably be gross. I will probably be a giant baby, and there will probably be a lot of tears.
So it's
on my part.
Thursday.
Wow. All right.
Should we talk about who was or what we're gonna do next time?
Oh, yeah.
So we had a few people kind of weigh in on
I don't know, Brian. Sorry.
different topics that they might want to talk about on these Tuesday night kind of open forums that we're doing. And one of them was not so much nutrition, but supplements, right? So different types of like how to support your training, like do I take vitamin B? What's the purpose of different micronutrients instead of macronutrients? Like we all know we need protein, but why do we need zinc? How does magnesium help, etc.? So we thought we would talk a little bit about that, and then also if anyone else has any ideas, share them here now would be great too, because we can start planning for the future.
No.
Are you talking about calculating dogs per mile? Yes.
No. Sandy said, bless your heart, and I said she is very lucky.
I saw that sound horrible.
Not talking.
Does it sound horrible?
You hear it?
Yeah.
I am back.
Yeah, that sounds pretty bad.
I guess
You don't have to listen to me talk.
Stop talking.
Laura, I think you might have to revise that no drinking during the week policy.
Yes, sorry. Don't. I'm back.
I tried. I don't know what's wrong over there.
I bought a 15-bottle box of wine, so I'm gonna be good.
Yeah, this is on the heels of the 10 bottles of wine or 12 bottles of wine she bought the week before. So now we're 27 bottles of wine in, and we're not drinking during the week. So it's like, what the hell are we going to do with 27 bottles of wine?
Hey, Rick, at least you're not pulling them out of your car.
That's true. Good
Oh,
point.
No, that's why they're being delivered now. He's not allowed.
Yeah.
Smart woman.
I'm not the smart one, obviously. Yeah, just in case anyone doesn't know how I did this today, I was taking bottles of wine out of my car.
No, it was it was Kirkland brand.
That's bottles of wine. So I'm going to still let anyone ask any questions. One thing I'll do real quickly, just to remind people, if a couple people know, Number one, on the YouTube page, we added a video under the strength and core exercises that is a demo of the different exercise program things that Beyond Exercise is currently offering. So it's actually a video that will allow you to go through a core, strength program, but it also is Eric kind of talking over it and kind of showing it to you, so you can see how you use it and how you interface with it and that kind of thing. So if it's something you end up wanting to do, that is on there. It's currently on the YouTube channel. Also in the next 24 or so hours, we will be adding another food project video, where Laura had another wonderful opportunity to spend an evening with me in the kitchen cooking and making wonderful meals and that kind of thing.
It'll be of significantly better quality too. We figured out.
Oh, mine was great.
Mm-hmm. It was.
So that's to come. As again, if anyone has suggestions or thoughts about things that we can do, I know I saw Steve drinking his drink.
Did you
Steven.
see that Chris volunteered to make this whole thing into a drinking game?
Chris Jenkins?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah,
He was double fisting last week.
I figured.
I see.
So
What
yeah, I see you
did
too.
you say?
You have a task. Yeah,
I
what
don't
is Andy Warner doing over there? in the
You're
room?
mumbling. What are you talking about?
Yeah, the drinking game. We'll be contacting you about making it.
It's only for old people. We played with Newhart, remember? He said, "Hey, Bob," and we all drank, right?
I am here.
And we got to figure out what Rick says all the time.
That's right.
That's when we drink. You know?
Literally.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Looks like I've been shut down. So
Or not to be dumb. Those are good starting points.
Good news, bad
Shit, Rick
news.
said. Yeah, good news, bad news. I
Literally.
get it.
Laughing at your own jokes.
hold on, watch this. Watch this. Oh, sorry. Did I do that? Did everyone see that? I didn't mean for that to happen. So does anybody have any questions at all? Anything? It doesn't have to be related to what we just talked about. Or it
One
can.
other topic that may be interesting is maybe even like breaking down some of the typical workouts that we do.
Oh yeah.
I know like we usually I know we talk about that beforehand or like in the emails, but like, hey, why do you do a fartlek versus doing like more straight intervals? Kind of what are the advantages?
Yep,
Mhm.
I like that. Good one. Also, just so you guys know, obviously, so we're gonna keep kind of mixing in speed. You know, on Tuesdays, like it just kind of makes sense. It will just not be as high in mileage as you saw. We kind of dropped the mileage down a little bit. You know, similar workouts, some other options, but you'll still see speed kind of mixed in on Tuesdays as recommendations. Still have recovery days. And then of course the long distance on Saturdays, we'll cut that again overall distance wise, but that will kind of remain there as well. So the format of things is meant to be maintenance, but the overall sort of scheduling and the way we have done things in the past will stay the same. So hopefully that makes sense. I mean, nothing should look unfamiliar is the whole point here. We don't want to just turn it on its head. And the point here is that it is maintenance. I mean, you don't want to lose fitness, and that's what it's designed.
Corky, can you expand? What do you kind of looking for when you say about the ketone blend stuff? You're muted. You're muted.
Still muted.
Oh,
There
okay.
you go.
So my husband got these supplement drink packs from someone at work, and it says it's called Keton.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, I'm just throwing that one out there because I was like, oh, what's this? Never heard of it. So I've tried it out a few times. It's tasty, but just would love to hear other people's opinions about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Can we get a Tuesday night, sorry to put you on the spot, Leslie, Tuesday night post-run, Leslie YouTube tutorial that we can go to on Tuesdays?
Yes, I'm gonna say yes.
Before she unmutes
You mean
herself. Damn it.
you mean more core than we already posted?
I don't know that I've seen posted core. Have we posted core? I'm sorry, I'm keeping
So-
up in bad
Yes.
form.
So there's the YouTube channel that we created, Julie, has probably, I don't know, I think it's 7 or 8 different core exercises that we filmed prior to not being able to see each other in person. And we will be adding to that. So Leslie has created some additional exercises that she filmed at her house that we're going to be adding. And then I'll put her on the spot, and I see that lovely Caroline sitting on her bed with her head on the pillow. We're going to make her do some as well. There are a bunch of exercises on the YouTube channel that you can see, and they're literally listed as core and strength.
Yeah, we'll do some more, Julie, as well.
Yeah,
and
there'll be
if I
additional.
can get myself around to it, I'll do some yoga for anyone who wants it.
Awesome. I'll be better at checking out the YouTube channel. I'm just kind of getting back in, figuring it all out this week.
So Kelly asked, his question was, what's a good trick for speed workouts for someone who's kind of has his head in the clouds? Of course, I mean, we don't know anyone like that, but to stay on track with the workout. And I saw that Sandy kind of had the same immediate response that I did. Like, I just program it into my watch, because if my watch is beeping at me, I just kind of automatically go and do it. The other thing that I try to do is I have different playlists for workouts versus just regular runs, so that my workout playlist happens to have more upbeat, so quicker cadence, quicker tempo. I don't use that for anything else, so it's kind of motivating. I don't know what other people do. Weigh in.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I program my watch as well. There's something about when you feel it vibrate on your wrist or it beeps, you just know what you have to do. And then I don't run with music, but I've found it more difficult running alone to kind of keep the pace I need. So I might take a page out of the book of Laura and make a special playlist. But yeah, definitely programming your watch ahead of time, and you can do like a range with the pace that you need to run as well. So because I find if I always I have to hit 6:30, I have to hit 6:30, and I don't do it, then I get more frustrated. So I might put the more challenging end of that, what I think I should be able to do or might secretly want to do, and then the slower end of whatever my acceptable 5K paces, 10K, half, whatever the workout calls for.
The other thing, and I'm actually doing speed work, but I'm on a treadmill the whole time, and this is going to sound really dumb, but because we don't have a specific goal, because we're not this race or on this date, or I have to be doing such and such, I'm actually getting strangely hyper focused on what I'm doing at that moment, and sort of strangely much more in touch with my speed than I previously have been, because that's kind of all I'm doing at that time. And admittedly, I'm by myself in a room on a treadmill. But you can kind of, I think, do that on the road as well, especially if you listen to music, because you can kind of just listen to the music and sort of tune out your surroundings. But if you kind of think about that and just focus on what you're doing now, because good news, bad news, Leslie, is that's kind of, in some ways, that's all you have at the moment. You don't have a big, long-term goal in mind, that kind of thing. So it can be kind of a freeing thing. So that's another suggestion.
Quick tech note, I always used to do the Garmin programming on the browser, and then I finally tried using the app again, and I feel like it's way easier to program on the phone app than it is. It's a nightmare on the browser for some reason. So
I agree, John.
Yeah, just to build on what Steve said. Yes, I agree too, Steve.
Steve, just if anyone's confused, Steve is actually Mike. Just don't get too confused.
And Sarah.
And Sarah now is Steve, yeah. we sometimes when we were testing Zoom before we started doing these, we were just randomly changing names and things like that. So that's why. It's do whatever you want.
Rick, I'm a little confused. You have speed workouts right now, and then you said we don't have any particular goal. What are we doing? I mean, maybe I missed this. What are we doing speed now for? I thought this would be take it easy, load up on miles. And why are we doing speed when I think I counted 24 weeks to Boston, or 26 weeks to Boston?
Yeah, looks like you better get an extra day of speed in there.
What?
I'm kidding.
No, I mean, I'm wondering, what's the thinking? What's the thought process for why are we doing speed? I saw that on the thing today. I didn't do it because I'm like, I don't want speed. I'm going to try to get my mileage up. So
you can do it or you can not do it. It's kind of up to you. But I would think of the speed that we're kind of recommending now is light. It's tapered down from the intensity of what you all were doing, and it's similar to kind of what we would do if you remember in the summer months where we would do those kind of short workouts. Is an opportunity to kind of focus on speed in a different way that you would when you were training for a marathon, because you don't want to get injured. You're absolutely right. But you also don't want to get stale and lose fitness. And I think a lot of people, because this was such an abrupt transition to I'm training for the target race and then, oh, all the races are canceled. Part of this is also mental, right? Like easing down into like what you're saying, kind of this easy lull. So we're easing people back, but also you don't want to get stale. So we're trying to keep a little bit of speed in there, a little bit of fun. But yeah, if, like you said, if you're not wanting to do speed, you don't have to do speed on those days.
Yeah, the big change, Chris, is to kind of continue that is really just pulling down the intensity of it. So and pulling down the mileage of it. So for example, at this time in the season, if we were doing typical Tuesday night, like if this all wasn't happening and tonight there was a workout, we would probably have been much higher in mileage, probably at least a mile or more over what we recommended for tonight. On top of the fact that the intensity of what we would have been doing would probably have been a little higher as well. So we're trying to scale both things down a little bit. And to sort of echo what Laura said, just keep I'll use the term that a lot of people know is like muscle memory. Not only muscle memory, but sort of brain memory as to like, hey, I don't want to completely lose touch with this. But also that is the point. I mean, it's there. I'm going to call it a recommendation because it's nobody's going to be yelling at you that you did or didn't do it. But it's also a way for a lot of people to check in and be like, hey, I do feel okay. Like I'm able to get a little speed here. I'm able to sort of still feel good, even though I have actually brought down my total weekly mileage and brought down the intensity of my week. So it's a little bit of both.
But what is the total weekly mileage you're recommending right now?
Well, I don't know if I mean, I'm literally like thinking to this calendar, and I think it's right now, if I looked at this week, it was probably around 30 miles ish. If we just took the total mileage of the week, and I'm just literally guessing. But if we were at this point in the season, if we were doing normal mileage, we would be much, much higher. We would be in the 40s, 45 to 50, even for some people. Again, it depends on who you are. But the recommendation that we would put on the calendars would be well over 30. And so what I'm having a hard time not speaking directly to you because I know your mileage would be higher on any typical week. Well, meaning that if you were in full scale training mode. But the key here is that a little bit of what we're putting out there is for people to digest and to use how they want to use it. So while I am putting out the calendars and while I am making recommendations, they're recommendations. I don't think I want people to view them as written in stone. I like that, like today, for example, I saw multiple people posting, hey, I did the workout, I felt pretty good, or I was actually, I felt great and I was able to do a race pace run that I haven't been able to do in a while, that kind of thing. But the overall total mileage of each week is down like a lot. And the intensity of specifically Tuesday workouts And then, of course, even on some Saturday workouts, because we don't have a workout built into Saturdays now, has also dropped.
I think you should also think about it as kind of heading back toward where we would be in the off season. The difference is in the off season, we tend to recommend a little bit more of a focus on strength, right? But you really, unless you have your own home gym, you can't really do that because you can't go to your regular strength classes or go to the gym or do whatever, you know, you would do unless you have all of that equipment at home. And so recognizing that, we're trying to think of other ways to keep people building fitness and maintaining fitness and conditioning, but avoiding an injury.
And we will, you know, you'll see overall, you know, as the quote unquote this season, you know, which would have theoretically ended May 3rd, as we sort of wind down over the next, you know, 5-6 weeks, we will kind of wind down. We won't go into what we'll call true taper, but, you know, because we're not tapering for a race, you know, per se. But instead of like, you know, when we, let's say, made this decision to cut to a maintenance plan versus, you know, a training plan, we also didn't want to just drop the floor out from under the program, you know, and have people going from, you know, an 18-mile run, you know, last Saturday or 2 Saturdays ago to suddenly running 8 miles. You know, that can feel even in some ways more aggressive to people than continuing at least some balance between decent mileage and you know, just pulling the rug out from under it. So it will be a slow, I don't want to call it a taper, but you'll have sort of a slow taper down to what we will ultimately encounter as an off season. But also know that we're still looking at what the quote unquote off season means moving forward, because we don't know when the on season will actually begin. And so as we kind of navigate through that, and believe me, we're trying to plan accordingly, you'll see us sort of continue some things as maintenance versus a true off season if it's possible. Anyone else? Good. All right, guys. Feel free to send us any messages if you have any additional questions. Again, you can reach me via text, via Facebook Messenger, or via email, whatever's easiest for you. If you need to speak over the phone, I'm happy to do that if it's something that you would like to do over the phone. But we will continue to do these every Tuesday evening, and we'll do them at 8:30 every Tuesday. And so if you have thoughts again about topics or things you would like to bring up, you know, to us ahead of time so we can kind of plan accordingly, please let us know, and we'll be happy.
Next week will be micronutrients in your running. I'll have a slide.
Oh God. Laura, by the way, likes science, so all of you prepare and make sure to bring enough alcohol.
Look how happy Corky looks.
Corky,
she's right with me.
Corky's thrilled. Chris did exactly what I think most people are going to need to do, which is make sure they have a full beer handy as this takes place. You think, yeah, and Chris is even more set. So again, if you have thoughts or anything you would like to share or would like us to share or talk about, please let us know. All right. In the meantime, I hope everyone has a great rest of their week. And as always, be safe, be smart, and we look forward to talking to you next week again.
Bye, guys.
Cheers, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.